Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. With us tonight, the political commentator Adam Bouilton and the political journalist Zoe Grünewald. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. So let's look now at what's on some of those front pages for you. And of course, the Manchester synagogue terror attack features heavily. We start with the Manchester Evening News with this emotional picture and the headline, Grief and Anger on Yom Kippur. It also has 8 pages of coverage inside. The Times has a similar headline, Terror on Yom Kippur. The Express too reminds us that this happened on the holiest day in the Jewish year. This is The Guardian. Terrorist kills 2 people at Manchester synagogue. And so it continues with the Mirror, terror at the synagogue. The Metro too shows grieving people outside the synagogue, but also a picture of the dead suspect, named tonight as Jihad al-Shami, and the headline, Face of Hatred. The Mail takes that information and says he was an Islamic terrorist. The Star has armed police standing over the suspect's body with the headline, Synagogue Knife Killer. Similar picture in The Sun, its headline, 7 Minutes of Evil. Even the Financial Times puts aside its normal business agenda to lead on the attack with a picture of armed officers at the scene and reaction from the Prime Minister and from Israel. The Telegraph says that Israel blames the UK for the attack and what it calls Keir Starmer's failure to curb a toxic wave of anti-Semitism here. The Eye focuses on the bravery of people at the scene, including the rabbi and other worshippers who the paper says saved many lives. So let's bring in Adam and Zoe now for their thoughts. And as we say, you know, all the papers, it's on the front pages, even the Financial Times changing its business agenda. But let's start with the Manchester Evening News, as this was the site of the terrible attack. We've been there all day, hearing from people who were at the synagogue and people who live close by, obviously never imagined that anything like this could happen.
Yeah, the Jewish community, very much a feature of life in Manchester. And Manchester Evening News focusing on 3 men grieving, presumably outside the synagogue, in which where, of course, 2 people were killed by a knife man who was later shot dead. Interesting that their headline is Grief and Anger on Yom Kippur. I think, you know, the Manchester community are aware, perhaps more than the general community, of the significance of Yom Kippur, the most holy day in the Jewish calendar, the Day of Atonement. Also, of course, the day in 1973 when an attack was launched on Israel in the Yom Kippur War. So I think it is inevitably a moment of vulnerability for the Jewish community, which sadly today has been justified. So a very impressive front page, really communicating the feelings of the ordinary people caught up in this on the front of the Manchester Evening News.
And so, as I say, we've been hearing from them throughout the course of the day, and many saying that they're now truly afraid and just do not feel safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this attack was a shock to many of us, but I think lots of Jewish people across the country will say that they felt like something like this was going to happen. We know that anti-Semitism has been on the rise. There was some research published today that said 35% of British Jews said they feel unsafe in the UK.
Up significantly from before October the 7th, which also the anniversary a few days away.
And you talk to the Jewish community and they say already there was security at synagogues, already security around Jewish schools, Jewish children doing drills in case of an attack like this. And Yom Kippur is the holiest day of in the Jewish calendar, as Adam said. So it was a day I think many people were very, very worried about, and their worst fears, our worst fears, have come true. And I think it's abhorrent, it's incredibly sad that photo on the front of the Manchester Evening News is very, very touching, very, very moving, but also devastating. And I think there's really very little else to say, about the emotional impact of this on the country.
Sir Keir Starmer obviously flew back from the meeting of European leaders in Denmark, and things that he's been quoted as saying that the hatred is rising again, vowing to wrap his arms around the Jewish community.
Yeah, and calling the terrorist or the man responsible a vile individual. Guardian gives a very comprehensive account of what happened, all the best information available, identifies Jihad al-Shami as the person who was shot dead at the scene. Slightly odd that it opens with the sentence, police shot dead a terrorist who killed 2 people. I mean, one would have thought that the 2 people would come before the terrorist. But as I say, it's a well-written and sensitive piece, giving some details about the 35-year-old responsible, noting it's just before the 2-year anniversary of the 7th of October, and also making that point about rising fear in the community. At the end, it quotes from last week at the United Nations, when the Prime Minister of Israel said, as I warned at the UN, weakness in the face of terrorism only brings more terrorism, only strength and unity can defeat it. And that, of course, was in reference to the British government's decision, along with the French and the Australians and the Canadians, to recognise the goal of Palestinian statehood, which the Israeli government has criticised heavily, and indeed some voices have been raised in this country about that as a reward for terrorism.
Yes, and we've heard from the Israeli foreign minister in regards to blaming Sir Keir Starmer and the UK for the rise in anti-Semitism and their handling of it.
I mean, the UK has long been an ally of Israel, and I think some of the actions the British government have taken recently have been a response to what is increasing fears from the international community about the campaign Netanyahu has been waging in Gaza, particularly recognising Palestine. That is a precursor for a 2-state solution. It is absolutely integral for people in Palestine to have that self-determination if we want a 2-state solution. And that is the diplomatic solution that has been posed by the international community for a long, long time. There have also obviously been sanctions on certain parts of the Israeli government. There have been sanctions on settlers in the West Bank. There have been the removal of some armed exports. I mean, that is a response to what has been happening in Gaza, which has been widely condemned by the international community, including UN-backed commissions. The fact that there is a famine now declared there, aid not being allowed in. These are all things that are happening, and the UK government has responded to that. But of course, there is a lot of emotion here, and there is a lot of concern. I think we need to be really clear when we're talking about this, that we need to be able to separate the British Jewish population from the actions of Israel, because conflating the two, they are not. You cannot conflate them.
I think there's a slight sense that, for various reasons, the Starmer government has not done that. That they've not really. After dealing with anti-Semitism within the party, which led to the expulsion, of course, of Jeremy Corbyn, Keir Starmer has really not spoken a great deal about anti-Semitism in this country and the rise of incidents which have been recorded by the Community Security Trust and elsewhere, even although, of course, he's very much aware of it. His wife is British Jewish. But one of the aspects of his message today was talking about, we're going to make sure that you've got extra security. I think there's a slight question as to why he needed to say that, why that hadn't already been done, even although in this case we can see that the Manchester Police had a...
Well, there is already security, but he was saying that there would be additional security to what already exists.
Well, I mean, typically, security at Jewish events and synagogues and Jewish schools is provided by the Community Support Trust, which is an organisation originally set up by Gerald Ronson, which comes from within the community. And
isn't there funding from the government?
the Home Office, yeah, the Home Office is supportive of it, and there's funding for it. But what Keir Starmer said in his statement today was that more would be done by the police.
Zoe, I just wanted to come back to Gideon Saar, the Israeli Foreign Affairs Minister, because I think it's worth reading out what he actually said on X, blaming the government for allowing anti-Jewish hatred to take hold and flourish. He said the truth must be told. Blatant and rampant anti-Semitic and anti-Israeli incitement, as well as calls of support for terror, have recently become a widespread phenomenon in the streets of London, in cities across Britain and on its campuses. The authorities in Britain have failed to take the necessary action to curb this toxic wave of anti-Semitism.
I mean, there clearly has been a rise in anti-Semitic rhetoric, and you can see it on social media. You can see it at some of the demonstrations. I think it's important to say that when people go on these protests to protest what is happening in Gaza, that is their democratic right to protest. I think their cause is worthy when you see what is happening in the region. But of course, there are people who will co-opt that cause and use it to spout anti-Semitic views, and absolutely that has to be condemned and stamped out. I think that is, nobody would disagree with that. We are living in an age where there is rising extremism and attempts to divide us, and that is exactly what we've seen here. The enemy here is extremists who try and divide communities. And if you look at Heaton Park, this place where, this area where this took place, we had communities, multiculturalism, communities living peacefully side by side. That is exactly what extremists seek to divide and seek to destroy when they do things like that. And I think we can actually learn a lot from those communities, bringing them in, seeing how they interact with one another, and absolutely calling out extremism in any form, wherever it is, and definitely anti-Semitism.
I think it's interesting that the Telegraph has taken a slightly different tack from the other newspapers, which really have just been mourning, the terrible thing that's happened. The Telegraph, rather more contentious, leading with the headline, Israel blames Starmer after synagogue terror rampage. Also, in its at the top of its story, saying just hours later, police allow Gaza protests to go ahead. And one of the features that is not so much in the newspapers, but certainly coming up in social media tonight, is there have been some pretty aggressive pro-Palestine protests, in spite of this, happening around the country, in Edinburgh, in Liverpool, in Manchester, even though this happened, and in London, with some, scuffles with the police and things like that, which I think shows, in a sense, that the public reaction in this country to what's happened in Gaza has perhaps emboldened a certain level of anti-Semitism.
But the Telegraph suggesting that these protests, one in Westminster, shouldn't be allowed to take place this evening. And they're quoting one demonstrator saying to the Telegraph that he doesn't care, that's the word I'll use, about the Jewish community right now.
I mean, people have a right to protest. That is their democratic right. Of course they do. They have a right to protest. They have a right to have a say about where their taxpayer money is going, or to care about whatever the issues are in the world.
But should they be allowed to protest
I think they should.
This evening?
I think they should be allowed to do it.
Of course they should. But
perhaps
extremism like that should be...
They should have thought today, when there's been an attack on a shul, whether it's really appropriate to go out there and... attack.
And of course, you can have peaceful protests. You can have people there, and there are British Jews who attend these protests who do not support what is happening in Israel. You can absolutely have protests that bring people together, and I think a lot of people who go on these genuinely do want that. They want to end extremism. They don't want to see these things being done in their name. But But there will always be people who go on in these protests who want to co-opt it for their own means, and that is extremism, and that, in this case, will be anti-Semitism, and that needs to be called out, and those people need to be dealt with. But I do think people have a right to protest, and I do think, you know, it should be allowed to go ahead.
OK, Zoe and Adam, thank you very much for the moment. Difficult topic to discuss. We're going to take a break. Coming up, US President Donald Trump has threatened more cuts to federal agencies on the back of the government shutdown. We'll be back. Stay with us.
Sky News has been given exclusive data showing every Palestinian who has been killed in Gaza since the war began. Our analysis of this pattern in the killings suggests that entire families were wiped out in their homes or shelters. The data and forensics team is a multi-skilled unit dedicated to providing transparent journalism from Sky News.
We located footage of the aid drop to a tent camp in central Gaza.
These airdrops are falling in extremely populated areas.
We combine traditional reporting with advanced analysis of satellite imagery, social media, and other open source information. Now, this is just one of the strikes and incidents we've been able to geolocate across Gaza.
Sky News has found Nazi speeches and marching music have been used as background sound on tens of thousands of TikTok videos as far-right groups try and spread their message.
Sky News has seen 72,000 posts used in this way. There's no evidence yet of foul play at Heathrow. It shows weaknesses that enemies could take advantage of. Elon Musk says it is, quote, a viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America. Supporters say it saves lives and projects American power and influence.
I think we would generally be called far right, sure.
It's called Return to the Land, and they invited me in.
A lot of people are going to be, why are you making Nazi references?
Right. Well, why wouldn't I?
Its founder says he is building a fortress for the white race.
It's a racial association. I kind of want to ask you, after seeing this, do you think what we're doing is immoral?
We followed a social media trail that led us to Bristol, where a confrontation between protesters erupted into a full-scale riot.
Here it really is pitched battle skirmishes, hurling missiles, throwing punches.
I'm Tom Cheshire, Sky's data and forensics correspondent.
Liberation Day.
By popular demand, here we are.
Donald Trump. It is quite the story. Wherever it goes, on Trump 100, we go with it.
Can you tell us who you're looking for?
Unbelievable we've come to this.
Are you overstating the reach and significance of this deal?
Not like you said it.
From the UK.
Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
It was 10 feet from him, and all of a sudden the shot's running out.
People impacted.
I'll tell you on another day on the podcast what that was all about.
Join us wherever you get your podcast.
I want to start the programme today with a name, a story that I can't get out of my head. The campaign has now started. This is your chance. Tell people this is the Politics Hub. It's not correct. The tax burden is projected to go up.
No, but
I'm not. This is my interview. Look, this is ridiculous.
No one does care about us.
I'm really interested in that. On the Politics Hub, he likes to push the boundaries. He's got the majority. The question is, what is he going to do with it?
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
We call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News, get the full story first.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview, still with me, Zoe and Adam, to take us through the papers. We're going to start with the Financial Times front page. It's a tiny little story on the front page, but it might have big implications. Donald Trump has threatened to slash more federal agencies on the back of the shutdown. Adam?
Well, this is because there is a standoff between the Republicans around Donald Trump and the Democrats over passing a budget allowing the government to operate. They can't agree, so there has been a government shutdown. The reason why they can't agree, according to, for example, Bernie Sanders and AOC, is that effectively the budget as proposed by Trump would cut healthcare to millions of Americans, just simply remove it, and they're not prepared to support that. What Trump is doing is countering by saying, well, if you're going to shut down the government, this is a golden opportunity for me to shut down other government agencies and fire a lot of government workers in departments doing things that you like. So in other words, there's a sort of game of chicken going on.
There's a bit of the Doge sort of creeping back in, and he's going to slice up
his position is he agrees with Doge. He thinks a lot of things which government is doing for the American public they shouldn't be doing, or he's quite willing to lose it. And he's saying to the Democrats, are you really prepared to give me the opportunity to further slash government?
Do you think he's going to get his way, Zoe?
Well, this is how Trump works. He issues these big, looming threats, and sometimes he follows through on them, but not always. It's all, he would say, the art of the deal, but I think often it's a bit more it's a bit less planned than that. But it's very Trumpian, you know, this big threat in the hope that it'll kind of bully or coerce people into doing what he wants. I think ultimately, when you're talking about slashing budgets, this is going to have an impact on US citizens. And at a time where Trump came in pledging to increase the living standards for many, cutting healthcare, cutting public services, that is going to be felt by those people he said he was going to make life better for.
He's also claiming that the Democratic version of the budget would give free healthcare to undocumented migrants. And to rub that in, he has been posting AI-generated memes on social media. One which shows Hakeem Jeffries, who's the Democratic leader in the House, with a cartoon moustache and sombrero and mariachi music behind him. And another one which actually has Chuck Schumer, who's the Democratic leader in the Senate. It's a deep fake, but it has Chuck Schumer saying, yeah, we'll give them the free healthcare and perhaps they'll vote for us. So it's got pretty nasty and pretty brutal.
We've just got about 60 seconds to talk about Prince William, not afraid to make changes to the monarchy that it needs. Zoe?
Yeah, it's interesting, this interjection from Prince William, that he's talking about change. And he wants to impact people's lives for the better, kind of talking about how he would be, I guess, quite a progressive monarch. And this is all from this upcoming documentary.
It's this random interview he's done with one of the stars of Schitt's Creek.
Oh, is it really?
No one can quite understand it, but it's with the Canadian actor Eugene Levy.
Yes, as part of his travel show. Yes, yeah. And they ended up in a pub. But we have to leave it there. Thank you both for taking us through the papers on quite a difficult night. We'll see you at the top of the 11.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
We arrive, a secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war.
This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away.
So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
It's 11 o'clock. This is Sky News' extended press preview. Our top story.
Everybody else, get back! If you're not involved, move back!
A terror attack in Greater Manchester has killed 2 members of the city's Jewish community as the congregation gathered for a service on Yom Kippur, Judaism's holiest day. Police say the attacker, shot dead by armed officers, was 35-year-old Jihad al-Shami, a British citizen of Syrian descent. 2 other men and a woman have been detained on suspicion of terrorism offences. The Prime Minister has promised to protect Jewish communities, warning that the UK must now repel a rising tide of anti-Semitism.
While this is not a new hate, this is something Jews have always lived with. We must be clear. It is a hatred that is rising once again, and Britain must defeat it once again.
But Israel's foreign minister says the UK's government has failed to curb a toxic wave of anti-Semitism, and words aren't enough. Over the next hour, we'll be discussing today's news with our reviewers, Adam Bouilton and Zoe Grünewald. And later, we'll have a full run-through of tomorrow's front pages. Good evening. 2 members of Manchester's Jewish community have been killed in an attack on a synagogue that police have confirmed was a terrorism incident. 4 other people are in a serious condition in hospital. The attack took place at the Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue in Crumsall on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. The attacker was shot dead by firearms police, and 3 other people have been arrested. And over the next hour, we'll bring you tonight's headlines, tomorrow's front pages, and the views of our paper reviewers, political commentator Adam Bouilton and political journalist Zoe Grünewald. But first, this report from our chief North of England correspondent, Greg Milam, excuse me, and a warning that it contains graphic images.
Armed police, their guns trained on the suspected attacker.
Get back! If you're not involved, move back! Get away! Somebody stay with integrity! Everybody else! He has a bomb! Go away! He's got a bomb on him! Bomb? Mate, he's got a...
They try to get members of the public away.
Lad, he's got a bomb on his jacket, mate. He's trying to go into school. Mate, he's stabbed him. No, he's got a bomb. Get out.
A victim of the attack lies on the floor.
Mate, if he detonates... Mate, I'm just jumping out of this in a minute. He's going to blow himself up. He's trying to press the button.
When the attacker ignored their instructions.
Lad, shoot him!
These pictures show a knife and an item we believe was strapped to the attacker's body. In those first moments, the mere suspicion this was a terror attack prompted a response within minutes and of overwhelming scale. The fear there could be explosives. Police have identified the attacker as 35-year-old Jihad al-Shami, a British citizen of Syrian descent. Based on what they know so far, they say he has never been referred to the government's Prevent counter-terror programme. All of this happened at a synagogue on the holiest day of the year in the Jewish calendar. For those who call this community home, it is shattering.
Today, like I said, being an auspicious high holy day, we've all fasted since 6:30 last night. You want to feel secure, you want to be able to go to places and feel that you can just walk around and do what you can do.
It's ridiculous, honestly. I don't know what goes through people's minds when they target innocent people. It's just, it doesn't sit right with me.
I've never been frightened. I've been in shelters, sirens, army bases, bombed at in First Gulf War, Second Gulf War, served in the army there. I've never been scared.
There you go. You heard that?
And today I'm scared. This has happened, you know, in my neighbourhood.
That noise you hear as she's talking, to people already on edge, they speculated was the sound of a controlled explosion. Barely 100 metres from the scene, police sealed off another street. One neighbour here reported seeing people detained. Police have confirmed 3 arrests.
This attack has been officially declared as a terrorist incident, and the investigation is now being led by counter-terrorist police. As has been confirmed by CT policing, we believe that the identity of the offender has been established, but until we are certain of this fact, it is premature to set out this detail at this juncture.
The Mayor of Greater Manchester came to visit the scene.
Tonight our first thoughts are with the families of those people who died, those injured and those traumatised by this and horrific anti-Semitic attack on our Jewish friends and neighbours. We condemn it outright.
Attacks like this are felt far beyond where they happen. The Prime Minister offering this message to the Jewish community.
On behalf of our country, I express my solidarity, but also my sadness that you still have to live with these fears. Nobody should have to do that. Nobody. And so I promise you that I will do everything in my power to guarantee you the security that you deserve, starting with a more visible police presence protecting your community.
Security at synagogues had already been increased. The fear of just this sort of attack was real. And here, in this community, it became reality. Greg Milam, Sky News, Manchester.
Well, let's take a look now at how the newspapers are reacting to this story. The Manchester Evening News has this picture of shocked people after the attack and the headline, Grief and Anger on Yom Kippur. It also has 8 pages of coverage inside. The Times has a similar headline, Terror on Yom Kippur. The Metro too shows grieving people, but also a picture of the dead suspect, named tonight as Jihad al-Shami, and the headline, Face of Hatred. The Mail takes that information and concludes he was an Islamic terrorist. The Telegraph says that Israel blames the UK for the attack and what it calls Sir Keir Starmer's failure to curb a toxic wave of anti-Semitism here. While the Eye focuses on the bravery of people at the scene, including the rabbi and other worshippers who the paper says saved many lives. Well, Adam and Zoe still with us to take us through the newspapers, and we'll start with the Manchester Evening News because that photo is extremely striking, isn't it? And they say, you know, a picture paints 1,000 words, Zoe.
Yeah, it is. And I think with all of these, whenever something like this happens, a horrific tragedy, it's so important to think about the people who are present and the victims. And I think this photo really encapsulates the suffering on this day, Yom Kippur, one of the holiest days in the Jewish calendar. Just the tragedy and the fear that will be going through Jewish communities across the country tonight. But I think that there's also, in some of the pieces that we're reading tonight, of course, it's dominating the front pages, there are some extraordinary stories of bravery. The security staff who stopped the attacker from entering the synagogue. Sir Grant Shapps, the former Defence Secretary, talking about how his father-in-law was at the synagogue and had come face-to-face with the terrorists trying to get inside the door. That's on the front page of the Times. When things like this happen, people show the most amazing bravery and humanity, and I think it's really important when we discuss this to remember that, because at times like this, it can feel like there's so much division and hatred in the world, but really the way communities can come together after these, I think, is a real testament to their strength.
And often the security guards at synagogues like these are volunteers. You know, they're not paid members of staff; they're just ordinary volunteers.
From the organisation, the Community Support Trust. I think it has been suggested that one of the people killed actually was a security guard. I don't know if that's been confirmed by the police yet, but I mean that picture in the Manchester Evening News, I think, does show how the newspaper knows its area, knows the response, knows how people felt grief and also anger, and of course, not many words beyond that on the front page, but they say, 8 pages inside of dramatic coverage. And what you see there, those 3 men comforting each other is, you know, they're in their, well, the Jewish version of Sunday best, if you like, because this was such an important day. And inside the synagogue, the shul, today, there would be women and children and men all marking this holy day together. So I think it's clear that whoever perpetrated this, knew that this was a day when there'd be a lot of potential targets gathered together.
Indeed, I've just noticed at Manchester Evening News that the headline, just underneath the name of the paper and the website, it says a friend dropping in.
That's their slogan, yeah.
Yeah. And also it's feeding into Sir Keir Starmer saying that, he wanted to wrap his arms around the Jewish community.
I mean, Manchester is a real... there are parts of Manchester which are a real fantastic example of multiculturalism in action and how tolerant and welcoming communities in Britain can be. In the Heaton Park area, we know that there is a large Muslim community and a large Jewish community, and they live together and they work together, and this is how communities in Britain exist, and there are extremists who will try and tell you differently and will try and sow division. And I think really we need to remember the resilience of this community and learn from them, because that is ultimately the best way to prevent and to face up to extremists.
Well, tonight, as the sun went down, members of the Jewish community in Manchester left their synagogues to break their fast after Yom Kippur. Many of them were unaware of what had happened, as their phones had been off all day. Sky's Katerina Vitozzi has been speaking to some of them.
It's the holiest of Jewish days, Yom Kippur, a moment of fasting and prayer, a time to shut out the world.
We're at a synagogue just a few minutes away from where today's attack happened, and it's really the heart of North Manchester's Jewish community. All day people have been in synagogue, their phones have been turned off, and as prayers have come to an end and people have started to come out, we found that we've had to tell them what has happened, this attack on their community just moments away.
Like Rachel, who heard police sirens from inside the synagogue, but didn't know what they were.
People get hurt, very badly hurt.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, 2 people have died.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, dear. Oh, my gosh.
On this holy day, it's
the holiest day of the year. Very, very frightening. Very frightening. We're not safe. We're not safe.
Earlier in the day, we saw additional police patrols here. But security, both paid and volunteer, is a regular sight now outside every synagogue to help protect a community that even before today has felt under threat.
The security is not the solution.
What do you think is the solution?
I don't know. Those who really wants to do, they will do it with lots of security, it doesn't matter.
Amongst everyone we spoke to, there was a sense of shock, but perhaps not necessarily of surprise. Amidst rising acts of anti-Semitism in the UK, David Yehudi and the rabbi he studied with tell us today has felt like a long time coming.
As a grandchild of a Holocaust survivor, I feel as if like, hey, maybe this is before 1935 again. That's the overwhelming feeling all over the world.
That real fear.
Yeah, sure, 100%.
We have the United Nations, which is set up with the intention of never again. And where's the United Nations? Never
in terms
again?
of the global support against anti-Semitism?
Whatever, just everything. It just doesn't, it's not there anymore. We're just not there. We as unsafe as we were before the war.
It is a shocking thing to hear on the most solemn of days. Katerina Vitozzi, Sky News in Manchester.
OK, well, let's go back to Adam and Zoe there. Very chilling to hear someone say that, we're as unsafe as we were before the war.
Yeah, it's devastating. I think anti-Semitism is clearly on the rise and Jewish people feel increasingly unsafe. We are living in incredibly polarised times, and when you have, especially social media, where I see anti-Semitic conspiracy theories circulating so freely, and they're so insidious. I don't know what you do about it. It's incredibly difficult to fight. Clearly it needs leadership, but I think also education. And I think that is one of the things that maybe was being alluded to there, which is actually when people lose the memory. You know, my father was a Holocaust, my grandfather was a Holocaust survivor, and he died a couple of years ago. When you lose that generational memory, you know, it can be very difficult for the new generations to understand what that looked like and how anti-Semitism grew. And I think it is so vitally important that that is taught. And extremism and intolerance of all kind of cultures and religions is clearly on the rise. And we need to think about how we can bring communities together and how we can show what racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia looks like when it starts. Because I think that's when you stamp it out.
I mean, clearly it's an emotional subject for you. There's personal resonance there. I mean, when you heard about the attack, what were your initial thoughts?
It's just desperately sad because, you know, communities live in fear across the country. We are seeing just so much more division, just so much more divisiveness, misinformation spreading, and it feels out of control. And you just feel desperately sad because the majority of people in this country just want to live their lives and love their neighbour and live peacefully in communities with each other. And yet there are so many groups telling us that that is not possible and that certain cultures can't mix. And I think it's just creates hostility across the board. And, you know, I think lots of people really thought we were past that, but just even over the past probably 5 years or so, I think it's got exponentially worse. And you know, it's an endeavour all of us have responsibility for.
And Adam, when we look at the Times newspaper, they're saying that counter-terrorism police and the security services are on heightened alert for potential copycat attacks. I mean, just sober reading for those people who are already terrified.
I mean, we have seen in the past that when there are incidents of this kind, they're quite often followed by similar ones. I mean, it's a very striking front page of the Times. I mean, first of all, they've turned their banner so that it's black at the top. And one of the features of what's happened today, although a lot of people observing Yom Kippur weren't using their phones, there was also a lot of video taken of what happened. And the Times has used that on its front page of the Jihad al-Shami, the assailant. And actually in this picture, you were mentioning earlier on, Zoe, that the father-in-law of the British politician Grant Shapps was inside the shul. Well, apparently in the window behind
is that him?
That's him, according to the Times. This 79-year-old man seeing what's going on. Also, graphically, they've shown the body of the assailant, and you can see in the earlier photograph he appears to have dressed up looking as if he had some sort of explosive belt or explosive clothes, and then...
That's what they thought.
And then bomb disposal person actually checking out what was there.
What do you think about that photo being used on the front page, his body?
Well, I mean, it's been used on air as well. The rules, as we know for television, is that you're not supposed to show the moment of death of someone, but you can show it either side. And of course, the top picture there, I think, is at the moment that the man was shot initially. Apparently, he was shot twice, and then showed some sign of movement, and was then shot again. I mean, it's certainly shocking, but I think what it does do is bring home the reality of what happened, and also, you know, how it was an incident that happened in a context that would be familiar to everyone. It's, you know, it's not a battlefield; it's an ordinary yard.
Do you agree, Zoe?
Yeah. Well, I think in this modern day and age, images will circulate on social media anyway, and I think people probably are. I don't know. I think they are very distressing images, but I think it is important to see, and I think people will see them anyway. So I understand why they've been used.
And it's interesting. The Times also talks about the rabbi who took charge and led the worshippers. his wife, who was an Orthodox Jew not using her phone, didn't actually know what was going on. And that's been one of the things that quite a lot of people have said. I mean, for example, Martin Lewis, the financial expert, was also not using his phone today, and he said when he switched it on this evening, it was just such a shock because he'd stayed away from the media and communications during the day.
Yeah, because it's Yom Kippur.
I should say the Times also has inside a article by Emma Barnett, the journalist, giving her reaction to the story because she actually grew up as a member of the Manchester community and went to the shul where the shooting took place. So, you know, a very striking article.
OK. Well, the Prime Minister has promised to protect Britain's Jewish communities, but also today he warned that the atrocity underlines that the UK must defeat rising anti-Semitism. Sir Keir Starmer said that Jews were targeted today simply because they were Jews, and it was also an attack on Britain and its values. Our Home Editor, Jason Farrell, reports.
A targeted attack on a community, almost certainly inspired by hatred, designed to provoke fear. It seemed inevitable this statement would come.
Counter-terrorism policing has declared this as a terrorist incident. And I want to be clear, UK policing is mobilising, and it's mobilising fast.
Police say there's no reason to suspect an increased threat to synagogues, but policing visibility will be stepped up. This from London's mayor.
I want to reassure them that in London they will be seeing additional police officers. People should be allowed to go about and practice their faith, knowing they're going to be safe. Unfortunately, too many Jewish Londoners, Jewish people across the country, Jewish people across the globe don't feel that way, and that's heartbreaking.
The Jewish community had feared this day would come and had already put measures in place to protect themselves, as the Prime Minister observed.
We provide a home. For so many Jewish families, that is the story of Britain. But Britain is also a country where Jewish buildings, synagogues, even schools require round-the-clock protection, where dedicated specialist security is necessary because of the daily threat of anti-Semitic hatred. Today's horrific incident shows why. And while this is not a new hate, this is something Jews have always lived with, we must be clear. It is a hatred that is rising once again.
The Community Security Trust, which monitors anti-Semitism, found that after the October 7th attacks in Israel, anti-Jewish incidents doubled in the first half of 2024.
I don't want it to be normalised. It's completely abnormal and extreme for British Jews to have to lead this way. The security measures at schools, I mean, we design schools at the architecture stage to be as far back from main roads as possible in case, God forbid, there's ever a truck bomb. You know, that's the extent of what we do.
Ahmed Ali Alid was responsible for the last terrorist murder in the UK. In October 2023, the asylum seeker attacked a Christian housemate in Hartlepool, but said he was inspired by the war in Gaza. In October last year, the head of MI5 had this warning.
We are powerfully alive to the risk that events in the Middle East directly trigger terrorist action in the UK, as we saw with last October's knife attack in Hartlepool. The ripples from conflict in that region will not necessarily arrive at our shores in a straightforward fashion. They'll be filtered through the lens of online media and mixed with existing views and grievances in unpredictable ways.
Marauding attacks are unpredictable and quick. In 2017, the 3 London bridge attackers killed 6 people in 8 minutes before they were shot. The same year, the Westminster bridge attacker killed 5 people in 82 seconds. Here in Manchester, the attacker was shot within 7 minutes of a call from the public. That phone call probably saved lives. It's likely so did the security precautions that all synagogues routinely deploy. That fortressing of their lives, schools and places of worship must sadly be stepped up. Jason Farrell, Sky News.
You are watching the press preview on Sky News. Coming up, this on the front of the Telegraph, its headline: Israel blames Starmer after synagogue terror rampage. Do stay with us.